It's not that we are inadequate.
All right.
Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us.
Right.
We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us. It's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Marianne Williamson, born on July the 8th, about 10 years before I was. When I first heard this quote, I knew that it was going to become my quote. And I somehow knew that I would have to draw upon this quote so many times, because there would be people trying to hold me back and tell me that I wasn't good enough. Thank goodness for a praying mother. Thank goodness for Fountain Temple AME Church, Pearl Moore, and Brother Stevens. Now, Brother Stevens used to pray the same prayer every Sunday. Every Sunday, he did the same prayer. So, of course, all the kids in our just memorized the prayer, and we would be praying it with them. And we knew the prayer was not going to end until Jesus came off the cross. So we knew that. I cannot tell you the number of times I have listened for Brother Stephen's prayer in my darkest moments, when I thought that I didn't belong. But Brother Stevens in his prayer would always say that God always has a place for you at the table. The question is whether or not you're going to sit down. And so I would go and sit down at the table, and many times I felt the presence of Brother Stevens. And you all know how we used to act up when we were in the Easter programs. And then payback was when our kids was in the Easter program. You all remember Pooh Bell, when the time we had worked with his Easter speech, and after he had on this little three-piece suit, and he hollered out right here, "Mama, did I do okay?" So that was payback. What you didn't understand then, when you were doing that Easter speech, they were preparing us for this moment right here. That we would be ready to speak at the White House, or on trumpet awards, or whatever God was putting before us, and that we would be serving as an example. And if we could just remain humble and remember whose we were, what we said would resonate so much more if we just said it from our heart. I was raised in Macon, Georgia. The thought that a black woman would be leading a medical school from Macon, Georgia, was not a thought that people carried with them. But there were people who were paving the way so that I would be ready. The question would be, would I answer the calls? The first call I had to answer was to be a child of God. Now, don't get me wrong. I, like everybody else, has been tempted. But one thing that I've always been, young people, is scared. I'm as scared as they come. So I didn't break the law much, other than maybe speed. But other than that, I was scared. A part of that, though, was God keeping me in check also. Keeping me in check, bringing the fear, just enough fear. Not that I would ever feel inadequate, but that I would understand that my power needed to be used in a different space and place, and not in foolishness. So when I went to Georgia Tech, and I went to Georgia Tech to be a chemical engineer. I didn't know anything about being an engineer. They were just recruiting black folk who looked to be smart to be an engineer. And so I went to Georgia Tech, and when I got to my 4th year, and Procter & Gamble offered me a job, I didn't want to be an engineer. And I had to call my mother, who had worked in the paper factory. She's probably on about 18 years at that point. 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7, that I was going to turn down a job that was going to pay me $45,000 back then because I didn't like engineering. She thought I was crazy. And when I told her that I had looked in an encyclopedia and I matched the words math, science, and people, you know, medicine comes up. And I said, I'm going to medical school. She thought I was crazy. But what she did was she prayed with me. And she said that if this is of God, then your path will be brightened. That there will be people who will carry you along because I've done what I can do to this point. Again, a path being made. It is those types of discussions that I've never forgotten. And every time I got a promotion, every time I made a decision, I made that decision first with God. Didn't talk to my husband first. Didn't talk to my friends first. I talked to God first. So when you ask me how I manage my Christianity in a secular society, the secular society is secondary. It always has been for me. It always has been. And as I think about where we are today, I am recognizing that being a physician was just a key to open the door. That God has a greater purpose for me, and that purpose is not totally defined yet. I know that my influence as the president and the first of this and the first of that cannot be taken lightly. And I know I must use that as a light to shine a path for others. One of the things that is weighing on my heart is what's happened with our black boys. It's on my heart, and I'm just going to share a couple of passages of something that I'm writing that I'm going to publish in the New York Times as an editorial. And it says, as a daughter, mother, sister, aunt, wife, friend, president and dean of a black man, my heart fractures daily as I turn on the news or read the latest statistics. We have silently stood by and watched. The statistics should not be a surprise to us. We look at our classrooms and we know that they will not be there. We know that they are invisible. Do you see them? Do you know what missing them feels like? Some of us have known for years what it feels like to miss them. They were absent in our homes when we were growing up, and our strong mothers tried to fill the void by wearing all the hats and telling us to be independent and stand on our own. We, the daughters of the absent father, were told that in preparation of what was to come, The mothers knew that they were systematically being plucked from the world. And to protect our hopes, they asked us to dream our dreams without them. And when we did find them as girlfriends or lovers or as wives, we were already conditioned to overcompensate for the lack thereof, because we knew that they were few in number and they were systematically being plucked from the world. Yet we watched in silence. And when we birthed them or adopted them or surrogated them as our sons, we were overly protective of them from our husbands, their fathers, if present. We were torn between celebrating every milestone of their development while osmotically preparing them for the system that was systematically preparing to pluck them away. We lived in fear when they started to drive, recanting the lines of hands on the steering wheel, position 3 and 9, no sudden movements, state that I am reaching in my pocket, sir, to get my license. We knew the ones who didn't come home, yet we watched in silence. I have about 6 more paragraphs that I will write, because I will no longer watch in silence as they kill off our sons. We cannot do this. So when you talk about how I'm going to manage this Christianity and a secular society and how I'm going to use this platform of medicine and health, I will no longer be silent. Because God has given me the position and place. And what's the worst that can happen to me? That I will continue to be silent.